I, 43 male, have been married to Kyra, 44 female, for 6 years. I'm so embarrassed to be writing this right now. It's not the kind of thing that I want to tell anyone in my life, so I'm going to use this as an outlet, obviously with a throwaway account. It's one of those situations that I never thought I'd have to negotiate, even in my wildest dreams. Kyra is my second wife. I got married when I was much younger, at 22, and even though it was a foolish, youthful decision, it's not one that I actually regret, because I loved my first wife so much. I genuinely think that she was the true love of my life, because everything with her was just perfect. My son, who is now 18, came from that marriage. We got married young and had children young, and even though I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, I'm glad that I lived my life that way. Sadly, we were only married for about 6 years. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit her car. She made it to the hospital, but she passed away soon after, and it still breaks my heart when I remember. If you know how grief works, especially with someone you deeply loved, you know how it never goes away. For several years, I had no interest at all in dating or remarrying. It's not that I didn't feel any kind of way towards women anymore, but it was that my first wife still held a big place in my heart, and it just felt wrong. Eventually, I spoke to a therapist, and with time, I opened up to the idea of remarrying. I wanted someone who I was naturally drawn to, but they also had to be great around kids, because I didn't want most of my son's childhood to be without a mother figure in his life. I met Kyra on a dating app, and after going on a few dates, I realized that she was the kind of person for me. We shared a lot of interests. She was super kind, and she also didn't seem to be the materialistic kind of woman like a lot of them on dating apps are. I have stories for days. We started dating, and I made sure that she met my son as soon as it was comfortable. They got along really well, and I felt like it was the right choice I was making. I want to make it clear that even if I didn't have a son, or if I hadn't been married before, I think Kyra would have been the kind of person I would have dated. I don't want people to think that I was only considering the wrong things in a woman when I started dating her. I was looking at the entire package. Like I wrote earlier, we got married 6 years ago, and we've all lived together since then. Things have been fine, and I always loved how close she was with my son. It was how I imagined things would have been with his mother if she was still around. There wasn't a single point when I felt that something could have been wrong. Maybe that's entirely my fault. Maybe I should have been more vigilant as a dad, or I could have talked with him more. I always assumed the relationship between the two of them was perfectly healthy, because that's what it looked like. If I had thought there was anything dirty going on, she would have been out of my house in an instant. I found out that what had been going on my nose about 2 weeks after my son turned 18. He told me that he really needed to speak to me. It wasn't a common thing for us to have such a serious conversation, unless there was something really important on his mind. From the start, I noticed he was having so much trouble trying to get whatever he wanted to say out. At that point, I still thought it was going to be mild, like those things teens think are the end of the world, but as an adult, it's not worth losing sleep over. I had to prod and prod, but eventually he told me, "It's about Kyra." He usually called her mom as an endearment, but I knew it was going to be something bad if he was calling her by her name, because he only did that when they had fights. I still didn't put any pieces together at that point because it would have been a crazy conclusion to jump to. Looking back, I get why he struggled so much. It's not an easy thing to say. And then he took a deep breath and blurted out, "Kyra slept with me." It's really hard to describe how I felt when I heard that. The first thing that came to my mind was that I understood him poorly. It sounds stupid looking back at it, but I tried to see whether he meant that they slept in the same bed, and that was it. I don't think any of you reading this is going to want the first option to be that they had sex. Unfortunately, I asked him to clarify, and it became clear that that was exactly what had happened. I felt like I was losing my head. I couldn't think straight. The first thing I asked him was when it happened, and he said it was a few days after he turned 18. I know it is horrible to say this, but how bad is that I wished that it had happened a few days before that? I felt so strongly about her that I wanted to have her put away. But because he was 18 when it happened, I had nothing legal to use to punish her with. I know it's a bad thought to have, but I just hate how few options I have when it comes to making her regret her actions. He told me the entire story behind it. It wasn't something that just happened all of a sudden. He started playing for his high school sports team when he was about 16, and because of that, he started to hit the gym a lot more. He got really fit, and I was impressed. He looks like me, so it was like looking at a younger me back when I used to play soccer in college. I encouraged him, and so did Kyra. I never noticed, but he said that she volunteered to pick him up and drop him off a lot more around that time, and the reason he remembers it so clearly was because she used to make a lot of comments about his body. At first, it seemed just a matter of fact, so he would also just engage it normally and talk about it without any ulterior motives. However, as he got closer to his 17th birthday, she started to talk more about girls, like giving him advice on how to handle them. He says he remembers the first day when she asked if he had started having sex. He didn't answer because it was a weird question, but she started to advise him on the things that women like intimately. He admitted that it was uncomfortable initially, but he got used to it. At some points, he said he could have sworn that she was being suggestive with him, but he couldn't say for certain. He just assumed she was trying to be some kind of cool stepmom. Then, one day, she got very touchy with him, and she admitted what she wanted. But as if she was some kind of saint, she said that she wasn't going to make it move until he was of age. He admitted to me that he knew it was wrong, but as a teenage boy, his hormones were out of control and he wanted it. I was really angry, but to be honest, I understood. He asked her to make it happen, but she didn't budge. She never texted any of these things, and he never recorded them, because he knew they were wrong too. When he turned 18, we went out as a family, including some of his friends and close relatives, and we had a fantastic dinner together. It was a great day, but it is crazy that amidst all of that, I had no idea that my wife was trying to sleep with my son because she was waiting months and months for him to be of age. It was the weekend after his birthday, when I went out to get some stuff for my do-it-yourself project. That was when things happened. As soon as I stepped out of the house and drove off, he said that she came to his room with a condom and lubricant. He didn't want to go into too many details, which I understand. I wanted to know the details because I wanted to be as angry as possible, but I wasn't going to push him. He said it happened once, and she tried to make it happen another day, but he didn't let it. He said that from that moment it ended the first time. He regretted it so intensely. He had been waiting for it almost as much as she did, but he realized how wrong it was. He told me he cried a lot and he struggled with the decision to tell me, but ultimately he chose to because he knew it was wrong for him to do that to me. I hugged him and thanked him for telling me, but I told him that I needed to process it. I was open to him telling me anything else after, but at that point, I just had to digest everything. Honestly, it was horrible. It was the kind of thing that just comes into your life and ruins everything, because I really thought that I had been able to build an okay life for the two of us after the tragedy that we had lived through. Before any of you say anything, I'm going to forgive my son. He's a teenage boy. He knows right from wrong, yes, but even grown adults cheat, and people forgive them. I can't hold him and Kyra to the same level of accountability in this case. He's a victim, even if he was 18, because she started all of this when he was a minor. He knew it was wrong after it happened, and I understand the pent-up energy that teenage boys want to let go of. Plus, he came to admit it because he felt that bad about it. I'm angry at her, but I'm concerned for him. You can say what you want in the comments, but what do you want me to do? Disown him? Fight him? I'm going to take out my anger on her, not him. Yes, it will take some time for me to feel completely normal towards him again, but hopefully not too long. The only thing I wish he had done differently would have been to tell me from the very moment that she had started flirting with him, but I get that he liked the attention, and he let it happen. I'm going to try and figure out how to proceed with this, and whether there's a chance that I'll be able to get her charged with something. There are no messages at all. Everything that happened was in person, and I'm sure she'll deny it that it had ever happened. I don't think there's much of a chance for a solid legal case under those circumstances, and that's sad. Your wife didn't mess up, didn't lose control, and didn't get swept away by some sudden attraction. She waited, she planned, she tested boundaries, she escalated slowly. At the moment law stopped caring, she acted, and your son didn't betray you. He was set up to fail by the one adult in the house who had a duty to protect him. She watched him grow up, encouraged the attention, normalized inappropriate conversations, and then conveniently positioned herself as the outlet. The age difference and power imbalance don't magically disappear because a birthday candle got blown out. And honestly, the "I waited until he was legal" defense is one of the grossest tells there is. Update 1. I recently found out that my second wife had been grooming, I think that's the word, my son, her stepson, since he was a minor. The moment that he turned 18, she went ahead to have sex with him. Yes, he was a willing party when it happened, but he's also a teenage boy. It doesn't change that he's a victim. But I get why he wasn't loyal to me when he had the chance to be. He's young, and I want to believe he learned a really valuable lesson because he came to confess by himself. I talked to a lawyer friend, and he said that I could decide to make a report, but the chances she gets put away is very low, simply because the entire situation is a he said, she said. There's no evidence at all, but I believe him because he's my son. He's a good kid, and there's very little reason for him to lie under those circumstances. Because of that, I realized that the only real option that I have is to confront her by myself. So that was actually what I decided that I was going to do. Before any of it started, I made sure to meet up with a divorce lawyer. The plan was to serve her either on the day of the confrontation or the day after, depending on how long it went for. I was also going to have my son there. To be honest, I wanted to leave him out of it, but he was too involved in the entire thing from the start, so he just had to be there to defend himself. We were all in the living room watching a movie, and as soon as it ended, I turned off the TV and told her that there was a very serious conversation to be had. I started recording everything, but she didn't have a clue. I struggled to speak, the same way that my son had struggled to speak when he came to confess, but eventually I got it all out. I told her that he had told me that she had slept with him, and even before that, she had been setting the groundwork. Before she could speak, I pointed out that not only did she cheat on me, but she did it with my son, who happened to be a minor when she started expressing her interest in him. She looked surprised, and I won't lie that I was slightly convinced by the act. She looked at my son and she asked him to say what she had done. Surprisingly, he said it without any fear, and I was proud of that. She denied it outright. She acted like it was the most ridiculous thing that she'd ever heard. She said she had been a mother figure in his life for way too long for his story to be plausible in any way. I told her that the story he told me had been too well put together for me to believe that he had made it all up, especially because he didn't have a bad relationship with her, so it was hard to understand why he'd even lie in the first place. She insisted that he was lying, and she asked if he had proof, which he didn't. "You've been talking dirt to me since I was a minor, like some kind of pedo." When he said that, I could see that she became very upset. I will admit, I thought that she might have been that upset because it was a triggering accusation. She dared him to call her that again, and when he did, she lunged across me to try and get at him. To attack him, I suppose. I had to hold her back and tell her to calm down. In that moment, it was evident why it could never work in court. It was so he said, she said. I asked her to hand over her phone if she was that sure that she wasn't guilty. She handed it over and made it clear that she had never texted a dirty word to him in her life. He had already told me that, so I didn't even bother going into her messages. I just went straight to the gallery and started scrolling. She didn't understand what I was doing, but when I scrolled enough, I saw that she had several pictures of him from when he was shirtless after one of his sports games. He had no idea the pictures had been taken. She had taken them on her own. It was in a public place, so there was nothing stopping her from taking the pictures. But there's so many of them, and most of them had been taken using Zoom. All the doubts I had disappeared as soon as she snatched her phone away and claimed that I was going to take things out of context. Suddenly, her story changed. He was the one who kept trying to seduce her. The moment he turned 18, he got really aggressive with his flirting. And the day I was out of the house, he applied so much pressure that she just let it happen because she was scared of him. I knew that was a lie because she would have said it from the first moment she was accused. There wouldn't have been a point protecting him at that point, and I told her as much. She tried to keep fighting, but to be honest, I wasn't really listening to her at that point. I had made up my mind. I called the process server, and he had her served a few hours after the conversation we had. I told my son to stay out of contact with her as much as he could. She refused to leave the house, so that was the best that I could do. Update 2. I'm all done with the divorce, and I'm happy that it is behind me. I'm glad my son is 18 because I can't imagine having to fight over custody with someone who was trying to sleep with my child. That would have been horrible. She got a pretty good deal on the divorce. I kept the house because I had it before we got married. I bought it with my first wife, and this is more reason why I believe that she was the true love of my life. She wouldn't have pulled this garbage that Kyra had pulled on me. The moment that we split up, I went to work because I knew that the one thing I had to do was make sure that the whole world knew the kind of person she was. I went on Facebook, and with a lot of allegedlys, I narrated what had happened, but I made it clear that everything I was writing it was as it was narrated to me by my son. I need the world to know the kind of person she is. Under normal circumstances, it was the kind of thing that would have been removed from the groups that I had put it on, but it was drama and gossip, and in the suburb we live in, that's the kind of thing people love. She told me that she was going to sue me for defamation if I didn't take down the post. I didn't budge, because I was ready to get her arrested for her inappropriate behavior when my son was a minor. I told her it was going to stay up for as long as it had to, and even though it might be taken down eventually, it is still up right now. She has sued me for defamation, but I'm ready to go to war over this, because I'm about to escalate things. My son has messages he shared with his best friend on some of the occasions when she had been really inappropriate with him, and I'm sure that those will play a role. If she wants to go to court over this, I don't mind. If the justice system wants to work for once, then this is a good time for it to show that. I've gotten the best lawyer I can find, and I'm going to make sure that she regrets what she has done in my life. Besides the defamation, I have gotten my son to see a therapist. Not because I think there's anything damaged, but just because I want to be safe. He enjoyed the session, and he might continue. Hopefully he does, because therapy helped me a lot. In the end, she's out of our lives for the most part, and I pray it stays that way. Innocent people don't lunge at teenagers when called out. Innocent people don't pivot from, "This never happened," to, "Actually, he pressured me," once the narrative stops working. And innocent people don't secretly stockpile zoomed-in photos of their stepson's body like some kind of private collection and then panic when someone scrolls too far. The story only changed when denial stopped being useful. You protected your kid. You removed a predator from your home. You refused to be silenced. And you made sure the narrative didn't quietly die in the dark, where people like her tend to thrive. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.